Before we begin, two messages. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Here's a riddle. How do you build native cross-platform mobile applications quickly without having to rewrite code and hire consultants at a huge cost? Titanium from Appcelerator. Called the easy button for mobile application development, it allows you to focus more on what's important, getting product out the door. Join the more than 1.5 million active developers who have created over 13,000 apps at www.appcelerator.com. Hello everybody, welcome to Untethered.tv, where we have casual conversations with mobile rock stars, and I'll bring you another one, this time from the great city of New York, actually Soho at Broadway and Spring. Is that right, Josh?
You got it, exactly right here.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on here. Josh is the CEO, well, the founding CEO of a company called Xtify, and Xtify, you know, for lack of a better way to describe this, is about persistent location, isn't it? It's about, you know, the way you've described it in your About Us is that Xtify was was inspired by X marks the spot, which is, you can call it what you want, but mobile notification, geofencing, real-time information or real-time notification that's relevant to you. This is what Xtify does, and they've got some great clients, and we're here to understand what Josh is doing at Xtify and what Xtify's plans are going forward in this nascent space. And it's an awesome space. I love what these guys are doing. Josh, thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
That's great, and we're very, very excited about what we're doing. We do believe, as you pointed out, that persistent location is a game changer. And very specifically, what we've seen is that brands are looking to engage productively and in context with their customers. How do they do that?
Yeah.
Simply sending out an SMS message saying, 40% off is not exactly original, it's not in context, and it's really not delivering the right message at the right time the way that the smartphone now allows us to do. Yeah. So we're really very excited about the very specific use cases that persistent location allows for.
Well, let's talk about this opportunity, because it if you look back over the last year in mobile's history, there's been such an evolution. I often talk about the fact that geo or location has come and gone. That industry is now a commodity, whereas a year ago it was the hottest topic, certainly for startups. And now we're looking for different ways to leverage what's going on in this industry about location. What was it that you guys saw? First of all, how long has Xtify been around?
Great. So we were founded 2 years ago by Andrew Weinrich, who's, those of you may have heard of him, he's sort of the granddaddy of social networking, always a step or two ahead. And in this case, Andrew really understood that location would change everything. And I'll give you like a specific example of how that happens. One of our customers, the Daily Candy, doesn't simply send out newsletters every day anymore. But for its customers that have a smartphone application, what they've been able to do is geofence the sample sales around New York, gallery openings, new restaurants that they've reviewed. And now, rather than having to only go through a whole long list of locations that might come up in a newsletter, their users now get a push notification alert when they're proximate to those locations. So that's just one example of what's going on here. But let's talk about the dynamic that you mentioned earlier. So from almost the very beginning with the first iPhone, then Android, and today with the BlackBerry, you could open up any application and say, here I am, now tell me something that's around me. Yep. And I think that we're going to look back at that, and we're going to laugh at that, because that's really not taking advantage of what the carriers and the device manufacturers have now opened up to us.
Checking
and that
in
is the ability to react to your location, even when you're not engaged with that brand at that moment. That's what's exciting here.
Well, checking in, Josh, is lazy marketing, right?
So yeah, absolutely. And Ad Age did, I thought, a great piece comparing us to Foursquare, and they talked about Foursquare being for the hyperactive, and Xtify in a sense being for the hyper passive.
Right.
It should not be so hard for me to have a relevant message delivered that's of value for me.
Right.
When I land in New York City, I shouldn't have to then start looking for what it is that I want. The cloud knows where I am, and so long as I permission certain services into speaking to me, they should literally be able to tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, Josh, look up. That's the Empire State Building. Or, hey, Josh, welcome to Soho. Have you tried Agent Provocateur?
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunities here that we're just beginning to see.
So what was it about this industry? So 2 years ago, we were just kind of entering this app economy, or so what they've called, where anybody could make $1 million selling an application through the various app stores. What was it 2 years ago? Obviously, that was seen was identified by Andrew about this industry.
So Andrew came to this in an interesting way. Andrew has a dating company, a very successful dating company today called Meet Moi. And Meet Moi has as its mission to make dating easy by making it so that you can land in a city, walk into a neighborhood, walk out of your apartment, and the matches that make sense for you to date are sitting right there. And what he did was he went to the carriers and he said, carriers, I have this idea. And the carriers said, oh, that's great. Persistent location. We've been waiting for someone to come to us. Give us 7 cents for every time you want to find out where someone is. And Andrew said, no, that can't be the way that it's going to get done, because at 7 cents, I don't have a business model if I always want to know where somebody is.
Yeah.
And from that quest emerged the idea of what if. What if it wasn't about checking in? What if it was about your persistent location in the cloud? So whereas Meet Moi uses us, and they're a great customer of ours, uses us to get people together with their right mate or their temporary mate, as sometimes the case is with Meet Moi, that works very well. But others of our customers, so that can work the same way for the Daily Candy, putting somebody who's interested in a certain type of sample sale at the front door of that sample sale. With Sam's Club, which is our biggest customer today, allowing a Sam's Club manager to say, hey, we have a flash sale going on right now, and being able to speak to the people within a 3-mile radius of its stores. With Playboy today, I always like to say Playboy and Walmart almost in juxtaposed sentences. It gets me a little bit, I don't know if excited is the right word.
No, I wouldn't use that right now, but yes.
I won't use that right now. But the ability for them to use a database that they've had for years, which is a database of bars and parties and places that men of a certain age, of a certain predilection might want to visit. Now, you get into New York, San Francisco, Chicago, LA, whatever it might be, you're no longer a stranger there. Playboy is able to take its existing user base, its existing content, and bring that content and context together. It's exciting.
It just sounds, this is, when we talk about real-time messaging like this and contextualized messaging and really about being always connected, persistent location, what we're really talking about is language that a lot of people don't understand at this point and who aren't involved in the industry right now because they're still battling that app versus HTML. They're having that conversation right now. Do we build an app or do we build an HTML or mobile web version of our application? So break it down and let's talk about really the essence of what it is that you guys do, the technology. Let's just go deep here into the technology for a little while to understand the impact and how you guys enable this.
I think that's a great question. What we have the advantage of today is we no longer have to think of ourselves as a location company. Yeah. And that's because the device manufacturers, and I'll be very specific here, Apple with the iPhone, Google with the Android, RIM with the BlackBerry, and as we're seeing it evolve now more and more, Microsoft with the Phone 7, have now opened up APIs on the device that give you access to the device's location.
Right.
The trick is extracting that location in a persistent way. So I can build very simply an app that opens up and says, would you like to know what's around you? Well, that's okay. That's fairly easy at the OS level. We're doing something that's more difficult and we think more valuable. And that is we provide application developers with an SDK for all of the major OSs. And because that SDK is embedded inside that developer's app, they now are able to use a full set of services from Xtify that allows them to write rules as to when a push notification is triggered. So let me give you an example. A developer puts Xtify inside their Android app. The first time that app is downloaded by the consumer, a system service breaks off and now is running in the background as a service with total care for processor and battery, because I think that that's something that folks would be interested in, and developers can take a look exactly what's going on there. Now, location, behavior is all extracted to the cloud. And then at the cloud level, the developer is able to use our tool, which hopefully in a separate video I'll be able to show you what that is, but a tool that now lets you say, I want this type of push sent to this particular set of users when they breach this particular geofence, or when a certain time of day comes, or when could be when the weather rises above 90 degrees. So our tools are being used in very smart ways so that your Northeast stores can get different messaging than your Southwest stores. You may want to have I'll give you a great example. A game developer signed up with us just this week. And what they want to do is they want to be able to have a character in their game inform you about something that's going on in the outside world. So this is not the particular situation, but let's just assume again that there was all of a sudden a heat wave in the South. And this developer can now write a rule that says if above X degrees, then, and send this message. And I want to be clear about what our messages look like. We're not talking about text. We're not talking about simply throw a graphic in there. Anything that can be rendered as HTML can now be sent down to the device. We're really, I think of us as push 2.0.
Yeah.
Right? When we first started off here, push was something simple, write a rule, have a simple REST API. Pretty much any developer can do that. What we said is that we need to allow a developer and a brand to create a rich relationship with their user. Think of this as a CRM tool, right? Yeah. This is for this real customer relationship management. And then there's lots of things you can do after that. Very early on, this didn't happen, but very early on, you're familiar with the game Dexter?
Yes, of course.
I guess the TV show and then the game. The guys who were doing the Dexter game came to us, and they wanted to push notifications to Dexter game users when they were near municipal morgues, because the game was about morgue. And all it would be, Dexter wants you to know you're at this distance.
Yeah.
It was just a way of engaging the user.
Yep.
And that's what we pride ourselves on. We're giving the richest tools to have the most engagement, and we need to make it easy. And I think that, again, when you see what we're doing, it's easy. That's the idea. Slip a little bit of code into your app, then you're off.
And so, I mean, you're selling to app makers, obviously. That's who you're licensing to, and then you give them carte blanche, basically, to come up with their own parameters in order to be able to send those notifications. But how does it work about geofencing? Do they need to set up a server? Do you set up a server?
No. So everything is done on the Xtify server. So we're using some fairly simple tools that we're then doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the back end. So, give you an exact scenario here. The Playboy list of bars and clubs and all that batch upload to our server. The marketing manager at Playboy now has access to a tool where they press a button on that group or that individual location, put a geofence around it. They just write. They're essentially just drawing a radius. 0.7 miles. if you're next time you come to New York, if you have the Playboy app on it, you'll see what happens. But it's a simple tool in that sense. They can also simply go to a map and point to something and draw a radius around it as well. We're trying to make this really, really simple. But I want to emphasize, there was a word you used earlier, which was license. People hear license, people hear dollars. We have a mission. We really want to push out this push 2.0. We have a freemium model which says you're an app developer, you want to use the simplest of our tools. What you want to go ahead do, come to our website, download our SDK, play with it, push all you want. What we're really planning to do as a company is build that layer of intelligence that will be necessary to make push an effective tool. So you're going to start seeing things like, today it's easy to say when the weather is X. But what we should really be doing is you're getting this message because you haven't opened our app in 15 days and we want to remind you it's here.
Yeah.
Or we just added a new radio station service to our music listening app. Did you know about it? Really letting developers have this close relationship with their mobile audience. That's what we're about.
So how do you build on this when your platform is being leveraged by all these other developers? You want to enable as much as you possibly can. You want to give them the ability to interact almost one-on-one, very tailored to their end user. And I don't want to keep bringing Playboy into this, but I'm going to consistently, right? So they have a consistent list of clubs, and the single point of failure for them is that marketing manager, the person who's in charge of making sure the data is up to date, right?
Yep.
How would they then take this platform, your platform, and go one step further with the relationship building? This could go bad, I know. I'll
tell you what they're doing. So they had, and I give a lot of credit to the executive who thought about this. He started noticing that when he would get his Groupon offers, if he was in San Francisco, he still got them as if he was in Chicago.
Right.
Because there was no location awareness.
Yeah.
Then he saw what we had done with Comcast and the Daily Candy, and he said, wait a second, I'm creating a service, and I think it's called Playboy Scout. It's almost like a VIP Groupon for men. And he said, I can start giving offers based on where my constituents are,
yep,
rather than just randomly. And that's what he's built. So they built a service exactly like that, leveraging our platform to do value added to their brand. And I think we're going to see that more and more. The ability to really take something that is a communications channel. One thing we're seeing, and maybe we should have started with this, we're seeing a tremendous disintermediation of the traditional digital messaging channels. So by that, obviously, I mean email, yeah, and SMS.
Yeah.
So email has, at best, an 80% delivery rate and a lower rate of open then. And then SMS, which companies continue to use and invest in, has a penny and a half, 2 pennies per delivery. And then you have to get that message okayed by the carrier, lots of other stuff. Yep. All of a sudden, we wake up, and I realize you know this already, but you now have a tremendous number of smartphone devices out there with this brand new push notification channel that's free.
Yeah.
And it's not like free with an asterisk. It's free. And when you have something free, it creates an opportunity. It creates an opportunity for the developer. We know that it's created an opportunity for Xtify. Yeah. And that's what we're doing here. We're mediating that level. And you can see where this is going, right? You're going to get a simple notification that says, the market just closed and it was up 200 points. Well, the next one might be the market just closed, it was up 200 points, and here is your list of stocks and what it did. And then the next day, market just closed 200 points, your list of stocks, and you're around the corner from that Starbucks, go, celebrate your gains, or
that's right,
cry over your losses over that cup of latte, yep, that's around the corner, and it's going to be, X off. So I think we are only at the very, very beginning of this push notification opportunity, and push 2.0, we own it. And we plan to continue to build on the base of notifications that we've created. So again, you have that idea of your preferences. Like, I got it. A guy could set up a server and say, tell me about the New York Mets and the New York Jets, and that's all I want to know. But when you can take that preference and add to it behavior, so how often have I engaged with your app? How often do I see you at the lat long call Giant Stadium?
Yep.
Right? That may tell me something else about you and the type of deals that I want to do. How long do I see you at lat long plus a certain amount of dwell time? So it's not a matter that you were just, standing waiting for a taxi outside of Madison Square Garden. But when you dwelled there at MSG, Madison Square Garden,
what was going on?
There was also a Canucks game going on.
Yep.
And I know you're, a fan and you've flown in from somewhere or whatever. So lots of opportunities ahead of us.
And so how much of this goes into the potential is so great. And as you said, that this is, so SMS is clogged, email is clogged. It's almost like you should go back to snail mail, put a stamp on it and mail it out, because nobody's doing that anymore. You're either getting bills or nothing, right? But you're right. In-app, you have actually got a captive audience, because that person has elected to download the application, grant you permission to be able to push notification and find out where your location is. And nobody, aside from a couple of children's books that I have for my kids on my iPad, nobody's telling me anything, right? They're telling me, I get a little notification in the App Store that says, hey, there's an update.
Right.
That's it. Nobody's telling me, or nobody's pushing any messaging to me, and I've chosen to put those applications in front of me. So it's not just a small opportunity. If there are 750,000 apps in various app stores in existence out there on all of these platforms, and I have probably 200 of them, and one is actually pushing me messages, that's a huge opportunity.
So we see that. So it's interesting. Let me actually use the example even of that book that you mentioned. If you showed a predilection to download that book, right, I, the developer of that book app, should let you know when the next in that series is available, and give you the first 6 lines of it so you can decide if you want to do something with that.
Absolutely.
When we take a look at the developer community, both in the Android and the iPhone app stores, there are very few developers that have a single app. And the ability to create new app adoption by saying, hey, you like this app, you might also like that app.
Yep.
Or you like this app, did you know we're also developing this? That's one opportunity. The other opportunity is maybe to poll you, to send down a rich notification that says, oh, you like the Cat in the Hat book, maybe you would like us to move on to, Curious George books or whatever it might be.
Yep.
So one thing that I've charged my team with is to really make this platform as open to the creative energy of the developer community as possible. So again, when you take a look at our platform, you'll see developers can create their own rules. We have one hotel customer that's about to come on that has a silver, platinum, and gold membership. They don't want to send the same notifications to their gold members that they're sending to their silver members.
Right.
Maybe they get an extra piece of chocolate under their pillow or
That's
something.
it.
But it's that ability to have a rich platform for developers, to have the most engaging relationship with their mobile audience. That's the company that we've built, and we're going to continue to grow.
Well, it absolutely makes sense. And I use New York as a perfect example. It's kind of my melting pot for everything around mobile. And, I think of any kind of notification, any kind of application that is out there that knows my location, my persistent location, can follow me around and knows my preferences. And, should use New York as an example. How many times have you been in New York? It's kind of 6:30. You're trying to decide what you want to do. Not the Mets, but do you go to a Yankees game, right? Or do you catch a show and you're hungry? So those 3 things are competing for my attention right now. Now, I need to be able to open an application. Hopefully it comes soon. Or I have an Epicurious or a food app and a sports app that is telling me, based on my location, that, oh, you know what? There's a sale because it's an expiring inventory, an expiring good for this show or this game, and oh, by the way, there's actually an open table at this restaurant, allowing me to make a decision based on where I stand but just not having to hunt, bringing that information to me, right?
Right. And I'll tell you, there are lots of solutions that are percolating out there that say, be top of mind with my brand. So it could be Epicurious, it could be a lot of them.
Yep.
Open that brand and then start hunting within that brand.
Yeah.
Our value proposition is saying that before you ever got on that plane to leave for New York, you should have been giving your preferences to Epicurious and all the other brands that might be doing this. And then you as the user elect which of those brands are going to give you push notifications. But I want to just, so that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves, one of the other responsibilities we believe as a company is that we as Xtify actually don't know where you, Rob, are. And what I mean by that is we've architected our system so that Xtify never collects your email, your phone number, or your name. Now, you may have a trusted party that you want to impart that to. So you may want Curious or others to know that. But we've created a pretty strict rule for ourselves that we'd like our developers to be creative without being creepy. So
well,
that's what we're thinking about now. So
that's good. Creative without being creepy. I like that. But there's got to be some value in this, Josh, when you start to look at the aggregate data. Anonymized aggregate data tells you such a great story, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So we today already, and I don't like talking about numbers, but this one I always like to highlight. We're today, again, relatively in our infancy, already doing 5 million location updates a day.
Man, that's crazy.
And when we run queries against that information, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
When you start really seeing this build out, what we'll be able to say is the following. This group of people, right, represented by a random UUID, were at the Statue of Liberty at 2 o'clock today, right? More likely than not, those are tourists who might be in Times Square later on in the day. That, we'll call it inventory of anonymized people now, would be available for what you described earlier, this exploding offer. Yeah. Maybe the Hard Rock Cafe in Times Square wants to fill tables. Maybe Madison Square Garden has some empty seats. Maybe the 21 Club wants to get the rush at the door, whatever it might be. Using that pool of anonymized data, so it's not just about where someone is now, but it's knowing that that group of people were at a certain place at a certain time. And the opportunity here and the possibilities, I think, are tremendous. The other piece at the network layer that we're able to do is we're able to tell the New York Times the efficacy of an open rate of a message sent at 4 p.m. versus 6 p.m.
Yeah.
We're also, because again, we know this at the network level, able to say, well, a message was sent to this device, 20 minutes ago, maybe the logic should be that another message shouldn't be sent to that device for another half hour or something like that.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunities here when I look at it from Xtify's point of view. The developer then also has the benefit of our network knowledge. That's the company we're building.
See, it seems like there is this is an area that nobody's really focusing on right now, which is good for you guys because it's about to erupt. And there are a couple of companies that I know and that you know that are playing in the periphery of what you guys are doing. And I don't expect that you guys are going to be alone in this business because it's going to be big business. So how is it that you guys generate revenue from on behalf of the developers? You're not giving it away.
We are giving it away at the low freemium level. Yeah. So a few things. If you're a developer out there with less than 250,000 apps, come to our stuff, use this stuff as much as you want.
Yeah.
At the higher end, our corporate clients are paying us because there's an SLA, a service level agreement that's involved here, and we give them a higher level of tools so they can query their own users as far as the historical. But I'll say that I would imagine that for 95% of your listeners and 95% today of our customers, the service is free. Because we believe that what we'll be able to build in the future on top of all this anonymized data will be more valuable than any of that. And frankly, a game developer who maybe either out of the goodness of his heart or for the 99 cents or $2.99 he's going to get for his game, he shouldn't be paying me.
Yeah.
And that's not where we make our money. We want him to be able to say, hey, there's a new Zelda character in our game. Hey, come get some more chips.
Yep.
Hey, while you're playing blackjack, go around the corner and have a pizza at Papa John's or whatever it might be.
Right.
We're cool with that. We have a bright, successful, very profitable future playing at the high end. And this is no different than a lot of the services you've seen out there on the web. That freemium model, as much as it's talked about, it actually talked about because it works.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, there are definitely some instances where it works very well. Specifically when you are collecting that kind of data and there's a long-term analytics play. So you're not only, you can show people how things are being used or how effective their campaigns are, but then, as we've talked about already, when you take all that data and you put it into a mashup and you come up with some amazing trends, and you can actually you can foreshadow what people are going to be doing. Just like the example of standing at a tourist location, you know that they're going to be at the next tourist location that evening, right? So, that is of absolute value. Data is king, and certainly when you can actually extract trends out of that data, that's the king's queen right there. It's a great match, boy.
And believe me, we have lots of companies that are coming after us for our data at this point.
Yeah.
Which is very fun to entertain those conversations as well. But I think that when you look at across, other than the carriers, across apps, I probably would imagine that Xtify has one of the richest troves of anonymized location databases for apps.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I just came across a story this weekend about Telenav coming out with this massive survey. It was anonymized data that it was based on GPS-based search. And they had a query of 20, they pulled it from 20 million users, which is an astounding number, and they can do that. But what dawned on me, there's just during this conversation, is that this data is very passive data. So I have to actively search for something for it to register there. It's kind of dumb data, right? It's isolated data.
Well, I actually would just differentiate with what we're doing. So Telenav, it's a great example, and the carriers to a certain extent can do this as well. They can look at this data on a gross level. Yeah. What gets us excited is that we could say people with a sports app show this kind of behavior. We don't have to say which sports app. We don't have to say which people. But that now becomes something that's a lot more actionable than this big glob of 20 million.
Absolutely.
So that's where we're going.
Yep.
So, if I know that it's Sunday morning and it was, the sports folks, there are certain offers I'm going to give you on your way towards Giant Stadium or wherever it might be.
Yep.
I'll tell you, the marketers have given us some great ideas the way that they're using this, and it's very exciting to watch.
Well, yeah, and that's, finishing that thought, it's exactly that. That data is dumb compared to what you guys are providing. And it doesn't matter that I'm searching for a Walmart. It's, what have I bought there? How have I interacted with Walmart previously to that? And what's my proclivity to spend? What have I bought? And adding that into a thought layer based on my location. I interviewed a guy, great company, New York-based VaynerMedia, which is Gary Vaynerchuk's company. They did a great thing with I think this was a precursor to a lot of this. This is about 18 months ago. They did this thing with the New Jersey Nets, which is they're not a great team, and they're trying to figure out how to drive.
They're working on it.
They're working on it, yeah. So they did a geofence free ticket giveaway when you checked in at specific locations with Gowalla, but it was a check-in. It was an active check-in. Yeah. And what really intrigues me about what you guys are doing and this push notification or persistent notification is that you don't even have to check in. I mean, this can be if I have downloaded the Score app or something to that extent, or an ESPN app. You know that I've favored the Yankees and the Jets or the Nets, then you can start talking to me directly. And that is what we've been looking for. I love the check-in economy.
It's here.
It is. Well, I love the check-in economy, but what you realize quickly is that I'm not going to give you a discount. You should never give anybody a discount who walks into your store, picks up a product, and walks to the cash and then checks in and gets a 30% discount.
It needs to be about intent influence.
Absolutely. Get them in the store.
Correct. You know, a lot of people sometimes ask us about Shopkick.
Yeah.
And I all credit going out to them and wish them the best of luck.
Sure.
But I need to be in the store. The store needs to have a piece of hardware. I need to, you know, somehow enable that piece there. And one of the first companies to align themselves with Shopkick came back to us, and they said, first of all, we realized that that's an active play.
Yeah.
Got it. The other thing they said is that when we work with Shopkick, we don't really own our brand. Right. We want to own our brand. Yeah. And one of the things is that our hope is that a consumer never, ever has to know the name or let alone try to even spell the name Xtify. So it's Xtify for those of you who
just in case.
Looking, in case. But that's really what it is. It's really about, you said earlier about the loyalty cards. You know, it really is the same way that you could go ahead and use a Visa or a MasterCard inside Macy's. But to a certain extent, Macy's also wants to have its own branded cards. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of these aggregators out there with deals. We are a tool that allows a brand to have that rich messaging relationship with its mobile audience.
Yeah, you don't get in the middle of it. I mean, but when you talk about a lot of these geofencing companies, it is a hardware play, isn't it? That they have to go in and install a piece of hardware in each location in order to be able to facilitate these things.
Yeah. So definitely in the Shopkick example, certainly people that are doing proximity marketing with Bluetooth and others.
Yeah.
So with our system, obviously there is no infrastructure investment whatsoever.
It's a longitudinal latitude, right?
It's a lat long, and frankly, we don't even turn GPS on the device with our SDK because location from the
cell tower
major platforms. It's even better, right? They've now begun to map it so that they're able to take advantage of triangulation. Yeah. It's pretty incredible how exact they're able to get. So I can tell you that you're standing inside of Starbucks, but our system can certainly tell you you're heading towards it and influence you at that point. Yeah. What's most interesting is that what we found is that retailers actually in some cases want what we call the donut. They don't want a message to the people that are at the hole of the donut. Yeah. Because those people already may be in the intent zone of a mall. What they want to do is go outside the donut. So it's like send if, but. So, if proximate, but not if so much closer proximate.
Love
like
it.
You said, once I've gotten the customer, there's no reason I should be giving up my 30% margin.
It seems insane, right? That you'd give away profit. That's an expensive marketing budget because you've spent to get them there, and then you're spending them to buy what they already want to buy.
And you're going double down on a customer, and there's no need to do that.
And you wonder why. Wonder why companies are going out of business or suffering economically. But I do believe that this can help in expiring inventory. Expiring inventory is a pain in everybody, right? I'm not talking about that pair of jeans that didn't sell. I'm talking about the empty table at a restaurant or the empty seat at a movie or a theater, right? Those are the kind of things where you really, if I have a movieticket.com or movie ticket app or something to that extent where I've shown myself that I love movies enough, that's a benefit to me to bring me out to another movie.
So I'll tell you two use cases. Remember, we have persistent location data. So literally, and I could show you this offline later, we have a tool that will say, show me those of my users who last Saturday night were at the Simon malls around the country. And now, again, the app may not have been used, and let's say it was the Fandango app. Maybe it hadn't been used then. But the marketing manager there can now say, I'm going to send them an offer for Tuesday night movies. Because if they were at the mall Saturday night, not likely they're coming back Tuesday night. Give them the offer that'll fill those seats. The other example is with a car company that we've been talking to where they want, as you are seen at the airport, so the way we actually, there's no secret here, there's the way we see someone at the airport, since the device has to be off when you're on the plane, and then the device suddenly comes on, so we now call you somebody who has just arrived at the airport. Well, if you're a member of, only by way of example, Hertz Gold, and they have a fleet of unused cars sitting there, they can now, as you're landing, push to you an offer that would either be an upgrade or get you to switch from what you were going to go to budget, now come to Hertz, because we got a diminishing asset here of these cars that are sitting here, and if we don't rent them today, that's lost dollars.
Absolutely.
A lot of exciting stuff like that going on.
So I got to ask this question, is that, you guys are a little bit ahead in your thinking, or a lot ahead in your thinking. I'm not talking years and years and years, but you're a lot ahead in your thinking about what this industry is going to become. And you're starting to see app makers thinking, I love the idea that, it's 90 degrees, that's a conditional statement that says do this, right? But where does this industry go? Because the worst thing you can do is have 30 apps that are telling me all this stuff all at once. And even if it's an aggregator like Xtify does, it has an aggregated messaging board, so to speak. But is there another layer that you guys are thinking about above and beyond that is almost predictive, or?
So what will need to have taken place, you've seen this a little bit, I don't know if you've seen some consumer-facing apps like a Boxcar or something like that. There will need to be an intelligence layer that essentially creates a dashboard for your notifications and then allows you to set priorities for those notifications. I know today when I open up my iPad, first CNBC tells me what's going on in Libya, then CNN, then the New York Times, and then for whatever reason my Special K gives me my diet of the day. But sometimes I think I need my diet first. But so there's definitely, we're going to see a tremendous improvement, I think, in the push protocols, the richness of push, but it all comes down to the fact that this is an opportunity for a company like Xtify to help developers make sense of this and to be most effective. Because if I don't have to send a hot chocolate offer to people that are living in a zone with 75 degrees and above, I'm doing a lot better than if I just have to send plain vanilla out to everybody.
Absolutely.
We need intelligence. This is smart notifications.
Do you think there's opportunity for companies to build just a simple app that aggregates all of this data? So notifications from you and whoever your competitors are at some point, so that it's like the aggregator app for
absolutely smart. I think there'll be a smart inbox. There'll be a priority inbox. There'll be, Boxcar on steroids, whatever it might be. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on out there. I think people trying today to do that. I think that, how many years did it take till Gmail came to us with their priority inbox?
Yeah. Right? Exactly.
It took quite a while. So I think that we're going to be in this period for a little bit longer, but it's just exciting.
So two last things. What does this do for, you brushed by it briefly early on. What does this do for email? And kind of the impact that it's going to have on email, and more specifically, what does this do for companies like Groupon? I mean, Groupon should have taken that offer from Google for $6 billion and walked away with some cash, because I think that what you guys are doing and what other companies are doing puts them in peril. Even if they do release, they've just released their own app. But so what does it do for email, and then what does it do for a company like Groupon?
Let me answer your first question and your second. I think that email remains a very effective channel. You have it sitting there. It's wider. It's richer. Yeah. I got it. I think you mentioned that also SMS. I think that commercial SMS goes away. Yeah. It doesn't go away tomorrow because we still have a large inventory of phones that can't run
SMS. Yep.
But it doesn't mean that texting won't go back and forth, but it doesn't make sense for a company to be paying a penny and a half, 2 pennies for delivery of a bunch of lines, or questionable delivery of MMS, when you can have something as rich and interactive as push. Right. So I think that you will see that happening, and you'll see us very active in that disintermediation. On your second question, I will not count Groupon or anybody out, but I do think that the days of seeing the Gap going with Groupon to do something like that and leave all of those dollars on the table, those days will be far and few. I think that Groupon moved in the right direction by putting its own
real-time
Groupon Now, and Living Social has something similar. So I think that the opportunity for individual retailers to create exploding offers is tremendous. Yeah. So it could simply be to clear inventory. Like we always like to say that Sam's Club has 3D TVs about to be put on its shelves, but it has 52-inch TVs sitting there. They come to our console, geofence 3 miles around the store, flash sale, don't cannibalize outside that geofence.
Right.
You got it. It's done.
I love it.
we're seeing that, but I don't bet against the guys at Groupon.
It's hard to bet against them, but I still think that taking $6 billion in your pocket as opposed to going public.
I just think of it as them saving the $6 billion for me.
That's right. Well, on that note,
okay.
Anybody who's got a checkbook that can do this $6 billion, I think that in terms of emerging industries, what you guys are doing, you're at the center of this, because that relationship that has been abstracted when you download an app, especially from iTunes. You don't have direct communication with a customer. You've got to find a way to get in front of them. You've got to find a way to talk to them and create value from the app, even if it hasn't been opened, or if they use it every day. Extract value. So that's what you guys are doing. I love it.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to coming back on in about another quarter, or just showing you what it is we built, because we have some really great stuff coming around the corner. So,
well, I appreciate it. I've been speaking with Josh Rochlin, who is the CEO of Xtify. That's xtify.com. The company that he doesn't want you to know about, but you should go and check it out, because there's some great demos and you'll find some deals about it. Josh, I really appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you so much.
Always enjoy watching you. Take care.
Thanks. And thank you for watching and listening wherever you are. Really appreciate your support for Untethered.tv. Thanks.